Hi, welcome. From this video, we'll be looking at applications of Gauss's law. In the previous video, we have explained what is Gauss's law and we have proved it using solid angle. Hope that explanation was very clear to you. In today's video, I'm going to explain you one of the major application of Gauss's law, that is to find electric field due to an infinite line charge. We have derived a mathematical equation for field due to infinite line charge using cylindrical approach or general approach. Now we are going to check whether we can apply Gauss's law to find same equation, or let us check whether we can apply Gauss's law to find electric field due to infinite charge and whether that equation which we obtain agrees with what we already know. For that, let me consider an XYZ coordinate system as shown on the whiteboard, and let me place the infinite line charge along z axis from minus infinity to plus infinity. So this red line indicates the charge extending from minus infinity to plus infinity along z axis. Let us also assume that the charge density or line charge density is rho L. Okay, line charge density of this line is rho L. Okay, this entire line charge density is rho L. Okay. Now to apply Gauss's law, we know that any charge in any form, that is charge in any form, should be enclosed by a closed surface. So to apply Gauss's law, first what we have to do is to enclose this line charge using a suitable Gaussian surface. If we use arbitrary surface, the derivation is going to be lengthy and complicated. So while explaining the application, it is better to go for defined geometrical shapes to enclose charges. So I am going to choose the best suitable surface which can enclose this charge. So as you know, I will be considering a portion of this line charge initially. We'll try to find what is the field due to that particular portion of line charge. Then we can easily extend it to entire charge just by using mathematical integration. This is the common way of solving unknown length or unknown area or unknown volume, whatever, unknown dimensions basically. Agree? So I am going to consider a Gaussian surface. So I feel the best suited Gaussian surface for this is a cylinder. Okay, when I say Gaussian surface, it means that it is a closed surface. Okay, so I feel this is the best suited Gaussian surface. So this is a right angle, okay, circular cylinder with z-axis as its axis. So the z-axis is passing through the axis of the cylinder. This has to be true, okay, for the symmetry. Otherwise, again, derivation is going to be complicated. So we assume that the line charge which I have kept along z-axis is passing through the axis of the cylinder, okay, which is my closed surface now. Okay, now let us try to write the dimensions of this considered cylinder. Let the length of the cylinder be capital L, okay, and radius of this cylinder be rho, because we are using cylindrical approach, so we will use cylindrical coordinates rho, phi and z. So the radius of cylinder is represented by using letter rho. So rho is the radius of cylinder. Okay, now why we are doing this? Once we have closed circuit and we have charges occupied inside that closed surface, we are going to evaluate or count how many flux lines coming out of this closed surface, isn't it? That is the idea. Okay, now so we also explained that we are not going to consider number of flux lines, we are going to consider density of flux, that is flux density, to measure total flux coming out of the surface. So here the flux density at any point on this cylinder, okay, is found to be radially outwards. What I mean is, this is kept along z axis and the cylinder is around this. Please imagine, okay, the cylinder is around this. Then the flux lines are coming out of this, okay, coming out of this like this, towards you, coming out of this, okay, everywhere, radially outwards. So if I consider again a small portion of this cylinder on the surface, okay, because we have to take idea of ds, right? That's how we learned Gauss's proof. So let me consider a small surface of cylinder, okay, let it be ds. If so, then the flux coming out of that can be represented using a single vector, which is nothing but my d vector, which is flux density, is it not? And this direction is originating from the line, okay, along a rho cap, along a rho cap, agree, along a rho cap. Okay, so now this is a small portion, let me label it, so ds. I think this is very clear. So I have considered a line charge along z axis and I assume that the flux lines are coming radially outwards from this line charge. So the flux lines will be out from this cylinder throughout the surface of the cylinder, around the cylinder. So I will consider a small portion for derivation purpose. So the small portion is ds and I am just going to calculate how much is my flux density in this particular area. And I understand that this d is along radial direction. So radial direction is nothing but radius direction, that is a rho cap. Is these things very clear? Okay, so I'll label that the line charge density is rho L also. Okay, now we are ready with the diagram. Now what we have to do? We should be able to find psi, right? Psi from this d vector, or I should be able to find q. What is q? The total charge enclosed by this cylinder, not the total charge of the line charge. The total charge enclosed by this cylinder I should be able to find, or I should be able to find what is d vector, and somehow by calculating these quantities I should be able to find E vector. That is the idea. Finally I should calculate what is E vector. Okay, now applying Gauss's law, we know that Q is equal to psi, right? We know that Q is nothing but psi. This is from Gauss's law. Okay, now see here, if we know how much flux we have, that is psi, and how much area we have, we define flux density d as psi by s. Or this tells me that psi is equal to ds, and we know that we consider s as vector because left hand side and right hand should be vector. All this we discussed in previous videos. Okay, so psi is d dot s. But now what if this d is not known as well as s, both are not known to me? Then how to calculate psi? Both are not known to me because s is some unknown surface, d is some unknown density. Then how will I calculate psi? Then I write psi with respect to the closed surface, right? Over the closed surface, how will I evaluate D and S? So how will we write it? As discussed earlier, we'll write this as closed integral over the surface D dot ds. Is it not? This is how we write. Because if D is non or D is constant, I'll take it outside of the integral. Then this becomes D integral ds. Integral ds is nothing but S. Integral closed surface ds is nothing but S. So I get back this equation. Okay. That is in the case if I know how to evaluate ds. Is it not? So if I know D and S, this is the equation for psi. If I don't know, I have to evaluate it over the closed surface. So here my closed surface is cylinder. So I will evaluate D dot ds over the closed surface so that I'll get psi. I hope this is very clear. This is because these values are unknown to me. And as per Gauss's law, over the closed surface, psi is same as Q. So I can write this equation as Q equal to psi equal to closed integral S dot, okay, closed surface integral D dot ds. So Q is this, Q is this. Okay, now listen carefully. Actually, I have to evaluate psi or Q, whatever. I have to evaluate psi, that is flux lines coming out of the cylinder through the top, bottom and lateral in the sense sides, right, around the sides of the cylinder. I'll repeat. Actually, when I close a charge, the flux lines can come out anywhere through the surface, right? It can come through the top surface, it can come to the bottom surface, it can come through the side surface. But due to two reasons. One reason is, as we already discussed, we always hold the surface normal to the charge to measure the flux line. In that case, the surface should be held like this, right, around this, because flux line, the line charge is parallel to z axis or along the z axis. So which is the perpendicular direction to z axis? XY plane. Okay, throughout XY plane I have perpendicular to z axis. I can have planes perpendicular to z axis only in XY plane. What is that XY plane? Around this, right? Around this. Or I can easily say that flux density or flux lines will be always perpendicular to the charge, especially line charge, sheet charge, volume charge. As we discussed, the flux line will be perpendicular to that. So due to these two reasons, the flux line coming out from the top surface and bottom surface will be 0. Okay, so I can theoretically or literally say that there will not be any flux line coming out from the top surface of the cylinder and bottom surface of the cylinder. So this makes my job easier. I don't want to evaluate there are how many total flux coming out from top and bottom surface of the cylinder. I have to just evaluate now sides of the cylinder, lateral side of the cylinder. Remember this. Okay, you can please make a note of this. You will not have any flux line coming out from top surface or bottom surface because flux lines will be perpendicular to the line charge. Perpendicular to the line charge, or the surface should be held perpendicular to the flux line to measure. In either case, that scenario or this scenario, you are going to get flux lines coming only out of lateral surface. So being said this, so I have to evaluate now Q only for side surface. Okay, so I'll write this, I'll just rewrite this as Q is closed side integral, okay, side surface, just an indication, side surface of D dot ds only. Actually it is, write it, actually it is all the surfaces. I have to take top surface, okay, D dot ds, as well as bottom surface. So as I explained now, these two will evaluate to 0. So no need to mathematically evaluate and waste your time. Theoretically, I know that this is going to be 0. If you evaluate also, you are going to get it 0. So initially itself we will make it 0 so that it will not affect my derivation. Okay, my derivation will be much easier. Okay. Now coming to side, that is how to evaluate this now. How to evaluate side integral d dot ds. For that, I should know what is d, means how to represent d and how to represent ds. Okay. Now d vector can be represented as magnitude into direction, right? So magnitude of d vector can be written as d rho. Why? Because the d is only in rho direction, a rho cap, that is only rho direction. So d vector in rho direction can be notated as d rho. Okay, so this is d rho and its direction. So its direction is a rho cap. So I can write d vector as d rho a rho cap. Is that fine? Okay. Now about ds. What is ds? So ds in cylindrical coordinate system, because I am using cylindrical coordinate system to derive this. So what is ds in cylindrical coordinate system? So I have to measure surface area in aero cap direction. So as discussed earlier, ds vector in aero cap direction in cylindrical coordinate system is nothing but rho variation along phi variation along z aero cap. So this is ds vector in cylindrical coordinates. So these are the representations, okay, general representations of d vector and ds vector. Now we will use this to evaluate q. So back substituting this to q, I get q equal, okay, side surface integral d rho aero cap dot rho d phi dz aero cap. Now see here, what is aero cap dot aero cap? Because when I put a dot here, this is dot is for entire, right? So aero cap dot aero cap is what? Applying dot product, aero cap magnitude, cosine of angle between them. So they are parallel to each other. So cosine of angle between them is 0. Because 0 is 1. So I get aero cap dot aero cap is 1. So that unit vector by itself dotting is 1. So this q reduces to, evaluation of closed integral of the side for d rho d phi dz. So I have to evaluate it now. Okay, now how to evaluate this? I have here two variables, right? Phi and z. I have to evaluate how d rho and rho varies along phi along z. So I will apply universal limits for phi and z. Okay, so phi and z. So here, what is the limit for z? Yeah, I have to evaluate only q coming out of the cylinder. So dz is variation of d rho along the height of the cylinder. Agree? I'll repeat. Dz indicates variation of d rho along z direction. So d rho, this d vector or d rho along can vary only from upper part of the cylinder to lower part of the cylinder. So d rho can vary only along the length L. So my limit for z will be 0 to L, and d rho can vary phi. What does it mean? You have to evaluate d rho for the variation of phi. What is phi? Phi is the azimuth angle. So the phi will cover the entire surface of the cylinder. So 360 degree. So it will start from some point, maybe here, and it covers the entire surface of the cylinder. So 360 degree or 2 pi. So limit of phi will be 0 to 2 pi, and limit of z will be from the bottom of the cylinder to top of the cylinder, that is length, height of the cylinder, that is L. Okay, so applying that, okay, understanding that and applying that, I evaluate Q as first integral where phi varies from 0 to 2 pi and z varies from 0 to L. D rho, rho, d phi, dz. You agree this? Yeah. Now integrating this, let me integrate this. What you get if you integrate? So Q becomes d rho, rho, phi varies from 0 to 2 pi and z varies from 0 to L. Okay, because I cannot integrate directly d rho and rho because I don't have any rho term here. So d rho, rho will be treated as constant, and I will integrate d phi for phi from 0 to 2 pi and dz for z from 0 to L. So this becomes, if I apply the limits, upper limit minus lower limit, 2 pi L. Okay, so this becomes d rho, rho, 2 pi L. So I get Q as, d rho, rho, 2 pi L. But my intention is not to find Q. My intention is to find electric field, right? E vector. My intention is to find E vector. Okay. Now how to find E vector? So using the relation between D and E, I can easily find E vector. So first I should find what is D. So from this equation, I'll write for d rho. Okay, so d rho becomes Q divided by 2 pi rho L, if I'm not wrong. Correct? 2 rho equal to Q by 2 pi rho L. So I get d rho. But I want a d vector. But what is d vector? Okay, see here. What is d vector? D rho a rho cap. Right? D rho a rho cap. So d rho is now evaluated as Q by 2 pi rho L. So this is d rho. So d rho a rho cap. So I get d vector as Q by 2 pi rho L a rho cap. Okay, now see here. We have considered line charge density of the entire line charge. Okay, entire line charge as rho L. So that I will substitute here. So see here, I have Q by L here. Can you see that term? Q by L. I have here Q by L. So what is Q by L? Q by L is nothing but rho L. Okay, we know that charge density is nothing but charge by length. Right? So Q by L is nothing but rho L. So if I substitute that, I get D vector. Okay, I get D vector as rho L by 2 pi rho. Rho L by 2 pi rho a rho cap. Okay, this is now D vector. I need E vector. What is the relation between D vector and E vector? D is equal to epsilon E, or in the sense, I know that E vector is D vector divided by epsilon naught in case of free air. Okay, so this tells me that E vector is D vector. Substitute for D vector from here. So rho L by 2 pi rho epsilon. So I write it 2 pi epsilon rho a rho. So this is the electric field. Okay, this is the electric field intensity due to an infinite line charge, which we obtained by applying Gauss's law. So now you can cross verify or you can check whether we got same formulae. then you can judge yourself which method of derivation is easier to find electric field intensity, because the measure of easiness will vary from person to person. So I will not comment on which derivation is easier. Both require enough understanding of concepts, mathematical as well as geometrical. So you decide by yourself, okay, unless specified by somebody who asks you this question, you can choose between either two derivations, okay, which we have discussed earlier, that is general approach or cylindrical approach, and this. Okay, I hope the first application of Gauss's law is conceptually very clear. I'll come with the next application in my next video. Till then, bye.